Welcome to the Cyber Brief Project. If this is your first time listening, I explore creative and unexpected cyber attack techniques. The goal is to help you understand how attackers think, what they choose to target, and how you, as a defender, can improve the way you see and respond to threats. Today, we're looking at a kind of attack that feels almost personal because it lives in the same place you trust to guard your identity. So let's get started with today's episode. Imagine this. You log into your laptop the usual way, maybe with a fingerprint scan. It's fast, frictionless, and it feels secure. You could reinstall your operating system, change every password you know, and still, the intruder is there, hiding just beneath the surface. The next time you scan your finger, it's their signal to act. Here's the twist. The secret isn't buried in your files or your browser. It's in the small, specialized chip that manages biometric security, Dell's Control Vault 3. That chip is meant to be the vault for your secrets, but in this case, it becomes the attacker's hideout. At its core, this is a story of weaponized trust. A system designed to authenticate you can be turned into a system that authenticates them. The challenge for defenders is simple to ask, but hard to solve. How can you tell when the vault is guarding your identity and when it's quietly helping to steal it? The attacker's first step depends on the scenario. In the local exploitation path, they already have a foothold inside your operating system, often through phishing, malware, or another compromise. In the physical access path, they don't need your OS at all. Just your laptop in front of them for 10 to 20 minutes. For local exploitation, they focus on the Control Vault 3's firmware communication. The normal system behavior is that the host OS sends biometric commands, like verifying your fingerprint to the vault. The attacker modifies this by injecting malicious firmware code that runs alongside normal commands. This works because the firmware is trusted and runs below the OS, meaning most security tools never inspect it. The impact: immediate control at the hardware level. For physical access, the attacker connects directly to the internal USB interface of the Control Vault 3 board. Normally, firmware updates are applied by authorized tools. The attacker imitates this, flashing their own firmware without needing OS access. It works because the update process doesn't enforce strong protections against direct flashing. The result? A stealth implant ready to activate later. In both cases, once the malicious firmware is in place, it survives OS reinstalls and disk wipes. The normal expectation is that reinstalling your system cleans everything. The attacker breaks that assumption by living in the chip itself. This is effective because the only reliable fix is hardware replacement. Normally, the Control Vault 3 can perform sensitive operations like cryptographic key handling. The attacker changes this by adding functions that allow them to execute code with system-level privileges. This works because the OS implicitly trusts responses from the vault, giving the attacker a direct path to full control. Most security monitoring happens inside the OS. The attacker uses this by running malicious code only within the firmware. They blend their implant's behavior with normal biometric traffic, for example, only activating when a certain fingerprint command is seen. This is because it hides the trigger in everyday activity, making it almost invisible to monitoring tools. Instead of scanning the whole network, the attacker studies the local system. They learn which biometric commands are common and how the OS interacts with the vault. They then design their trigger to fit perfectly into that normal traffic. This works because it avoids generating suspicious patterns. While the implant itself doesn't spread, gaining system privileges allows the attacker to pivot. They can install additional tools, harvest credentials, and move across the network using legitimate channels. The result? A single compromised laptop can lead to a much larger breach. The goal varies from long-term espionage to data theft to preparing for destructive action. Because the attacker controls the authentication hardware, they can bypass login checks, steal cryptographic keys, or impersonate legitimate users, all with the confidence that their implant is trusted and hard to remove. One step feeds the next. Foothold in the OS, or brief physical access, leads to firmware control. Firmware control leads to system privileges. System privileges lead to broader compromise. And all of it rests on the fact that the vault is trusted without question. It all because security tools rarely look inside firmware. Trust in the hardware layer is so strong that an attacker who gets in can stay in, often undetected for months or years. This isn't just a Dell problem. It's a reminder that the devices inside our devices can be just as vulnerable as the OS we secure. As we move toward more hardware-based authentication, the risk surface shifts lower in the stack, and lower often means harder to see. Think beyond the OS. Include firmware integrity checks in your security baseline. Apply physical tamper protections for sensitive hardware. And most importantly, treat trusted hardware as monitored hardware, not untouchable hardware. So the next time you scan your fingerprint to unlock your system, ask yourself, is the vault only opening for you? Or is it also keeping a quiet promise to someone else? Check the episode description for defensive actions, tools, and configuration steps you can take today. If you found this valuable, share it with a colleague, your team, or your security community. And make sure to subscribe to the Cyberbrief Project on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss the next deep dive into attacker techniques. Thank you for listening.